Circles in the coordinate plane. Remember that triangle we created when we were finding the slope of a line? We picked 2 points on the line. We subtract the y's to get the rise, and we subtract the x's to get the run. Our points are x2, y2, x1, y1. y2 minus y1 is the rise. x2 minus x1 is the run. And this formula up here was created that m was rise over run, subtract the y's to get the rise, subtract the x's to get the run. If we combine that together with the Pythagorean theorem, a squared plus b squared equals c squared, we can get the distance formula. We have c squared equals a squared, which is x2 minus x1 squared, right here, plus b squared, which is y2 minus y1 squared. And if we call this c, the hypotenuse, because here's our right angle right here, d for distance, we get the distance formula. The final step with the distance formula is to take the square root of each side. If we take the square root of each side, we get d equals the square root of x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared. But today, we're going to talk about how to get the equation of a circle. And we don't take the square root of each side. To turn this into the equation of a circle, what we do is we call the d squared r squared, or the radius squared. One of the points is going to be a normal xy. I'm going to call x2 just a normal x. And we need a point for the center, a point that's stationary, that doesn't change. I'll call that point h comma k. And that point right here, h comma k, is going to take the place of x1 and y1. So x minus h, which is a stationary x, plus, we call our y2 a normal y. It's going to be a point that changes, minus, and the y1 is a stationary y. Right there, it's the k. This then is the equation of a circle. X minus h quantity squared plus y minus k quantity squared equals r squared. HK is the center. It's a stationary point that does not change. X and y are your variables. They continually change as you go around the circle. Notice in the formula that it is r squared, the radius squared. That's what you have to have. X minus h quantity squared plus y minus k quantity squared equals r squared. If I give you a point like 2, 3 for the center and a radius of 6, the equation then is x minus h, which is the x of the center, x minus 2 squared, plus y minus k, it's the y of the center, 3 squared, equals r squared, that's 6 squared, which is 36. This is the equation of a circle that has center 2, 3, and radius 6. If the center were -4, -6, and my radius was 7, it would be x minus -4 squared plus y minus -6 squared equals 49. Now you wouldn't leave this and this as a double negative. You would change it to x plus 4 quantity squared plus y plus 6 quantity squared equals 49. This is the equation of a circle with center -4, -6, and radius 7. Note here that the only way you can get plus is if your center has a negative x or a negative y. If they were to give you the center and a point on the circle, it turns out to be fairly easy to find the radius. Take your formula, x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. Remember, the center is h comma k, and plug in the values you have. I have an x and a y, 714. 7 minus h is the x of the center, 7 minus 3 squared, plus y is 14, it's a point on the circle, minus k is the y of the center, equals r squared. We don't know it. 7 minus 3 is 4, 4 squared. 14 minus 6 is 8, that's 8 squared, equals r squared. This is 16 plus 64 equals r squared. 16 plus 64 is 80. R squared equals 80. Now in the formula, notice it's r squared. If you were making the equation of this line, you would have it. If they asked you to find the radius, you would take the square root of each side, the square root of r squared, and the square root of 80. 80 is 16 times 5, so r would equal 4 root 5. But if they just asked for the equation, you would say the equation is x minus h, which is 3, that's the x of the center of the circle, plus y minus k, y minus 6, the center of the circle again, the y, equals r squared, and I know r squared is 80. The rest of this video is questions from your assignment. Find the equation of a circle with center 1, negative 4, that's your h and k, and your radius is 3. X minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. That's x minus 1 squared plus y minus negative 4. We have a minus in the formula. Minus negative 4 makes it plus 4 squared equals r squared, which is 9. This is like the last example we did in the teaching part of the video, question 4. We have a center, an h and a k. We have a point on the circle, an x and a y. Take your formula and plug in the values you know and solve for what you don't know. I have an x, 1 minus the h is negative 2. 1 minus negative 2 is 1 plus 2. I have a y, negative 10. I have the k, which is the y of the center, which is minus negative 6. That's a double negative, so it's plus 6 equals r squared. And we have 3 squared plus negative 4 squared. That is 9 plus 16 equals r squared. 25 is r squared, so r is 5. R squared is what we need for an equation, though. X minus h, which is minus negative 2 or plus 2 squared. Y minus k, y minus negative 6 or y plus 6 squared equals r squared, which is 25. And there's my equation. Question 6, find the equation of the circle. We need two things here. We need the radius and the center. My HK, the center, is negative 4, 5. My radius looks like it's 3. Our formula becomes x minus h, x minus negative 4, that's a double negative, so it's plus 4, y minus k, y minus 5, equals r squared, which is 9. And there's the equation. Question 7 is another find the equation. Find the center of the circle. The hk is 3, negative 2. The radius is 3. It'll be x minus h, x minus 3 squared, y minus k, y minus negative 2 is y plus 2, double negative, equals r squared, which is 9. Question 9. Remember that the standard form of a circle is x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. So you have to understand the only way you get a plus is if your h and your k, one of them's got to be negative, or in this case, they're both negative. That's the only way to get a plus in your formula. The center is actually negative 5, negative 3. And the radius, this is r squared, the radius would be 6, the square root of 36. To graph that, we first plot our center, negative 5, negative 3. And then we're going to take a radius of 6 all directions. All you need to do is grab the circle tool in WAMAP, go 6 units either horizontally or vertically, and drag your circle. For me, I would go 6 units to the right, which puts me at 1. 6 units above, which puts me at 3. 6 units to the left, which puts me at negative 11. And 6 units below puts me at negative 9. There's my circle, hand-drawn and not very pretty. For question 12, we're graphing a circle again. Notice the plus. The only way you can get a plus is if you have a negative, either h or k. My center actually is negative 1. X minus negative 1 becomes x plus 1. And notice this is just y squared, which means it's y minus 0. The center is negative 1, 0. This is r squared. The square root of 4 then is r. R is 2. Plot that negative 1, 0. Go a distance of 2 all directions. And there you have my hand-drawn circle.